Welcome back. Welcome back to CK Stories from the Heart. If you found us and if you've been riding with us since the beginning, I want you to know your loyalty means more to me than I can put into words. Today, I want to talk about something that lives at the center of everything I believe in. Something that I had to learn, not in a classroom, not from a book, but from the moments in my life where I had to choose between what was easy and what was right. I want to talk about your word, not just what you say when things are comfortable, not the promises you make when the room is full and everyone's watching. I'm talking about the ones you make quietly, the ones that nobody holds you to but yourself. The ones you made to your community, to your family, to the people who believed in you before you believed in yourself. Let me be real with you for a second. There was a time in my life when I made a promise, a big one. Not a promise that made headlines. It was a promise made in a living room, at a kitchen table, in a conversation between real people who needed something real from me. And the world didn't stop for that promise. Life kept moving, things got harder. There were 100 reasons, good reasons, to walk it back, to downgrade it, to quietly let it fade. But here's what I've learned. Every promise you break, even the ones no one sees, leaves a crack in who you are. And every promise you keep, especially the hard ones, builds something that no amount of money, status, or applause can replicate. It builds your character. It builds your legacy. And in a community, a real community, your character is your currency. See, we live in a world that talks a lot about leaders. We celebrate the ones with the biggest platforms, the loudest voices, the most followers, but the leaders who actually change communities, they're the ones who showed up when it wasn't convenient. They're the ones who made commitments in the dark and honored them in the light. They didn't just build movements, they built trust, one kept promise at a time. Excuse me. I believe with everything in me that leadership isn't a title. Leadership is accountability lived out loud. So today, I want to explore that with you. I want to dig into what it actually means to be committed, to be honest, and to be trustworthy. Not as abstract virtues, but as daily, community-level practices that determine the kind of world we build together. Because the weight of your word, the real weight of it, isn't just about you. It ripples out, it touches the people around you, it shapes the culture of every group, every family, every neighborhood you're a part of. Let's go deep today. So today, this show, I want to talk to you guys about community, commitment, accountability, and the weight of your word. That is the theme of this show today. And there's so many things that I'd like to share with you guys because this is the thing, or these are the things, that help to not only build communities, but it also gives us the proven facts of who the real people are that keep these commitments and they keep these promises when they make them. So it's so many of these that there's so much that I like to talk to you guys in this short time frame about. So I want you guys to kind of like just please, be a little bit patient with me here because I'm going to talk to you about these three things, and I want to make sure that in just compacting these into this short period of time, that I'm able to convey a clear and concise message to you. So let me start off with this. Commitment isn't a feeling; it's a decision it's a decision you remake every single day. It's not the excitement of starting something; it's the discipline of continuing when the excitement is gone. Commitment is what separates people who dream from people who deliver. So when we talk about commitment, commitment has a cost, and that cost is what this point is right now today. And so let me give you this abstract, and with this abstract I'm going to give you that actual point that I'm trying to convey. The things in life that cost you nothing are worth nothing. When you commit to something, a person, a community, a vision, you are essentially saying, I am willing to sacrifice for this. That sacrifice is not a burden. It is the proof. It is the thing that gives your commitment its weight and its meaning. Real talk, anybody can be committed when it's easy. The real test of commitment is what you do when keeping your word costs you time, money, comfort, or social approval. What do you do when honoring the promise? What do you do when honoring the promise is inconvenient? That answer tells you everything about who you are. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, when you make a commitment, it doesn't matter if it's when you're talking about your community, when you're talking about people, when you're talking about work, when you're talking about anything that you decide and you give your word that you're going to do what you say, that's a commitment. That is a commitment. That commitment means that if you give your word, you should actually make that good because your word is bond. If you're unable to commit, then you're supposed to say, I can't at this time, or whatever that reason may be. But you can't make a commitment and then come back sometime before it's time to do the commitment and then say, I can't do it. What kind of word is that? But also, what does that say for that moment, for that time, for that person? There's nothing that states that anyone is ever going to just say, well, I'm committed to doing this. No, that's not the way that works. That's not the way that works. We all have a due diligence at some point in time when we're talking about what a commitment is, what that is that we have to do. I think back to, in the earlier parts of my life, and I know that I single-handedly made a commitment to do the things that I did. When I made those commitments, I wanted to make sure that I am doing and showing up to do those things that I said that I would do. When we are unable to do those things, then we should let people know that we can't do those things. You know, when we talk about community building, because that's what we do here at our whole entire ecosystem of American Black and White that goes down to Changing Trends and Times and this show, CK Stories from the Heart. We made a commitment to build our communities. We made a commitment to unify and connect our communities as best as we possibly can. It doesn't matter if it's hell or high water. We're going to deliver that to you, the people, to the community. We're going to deliver that. That's a commitment. We authentically show up for you because what we do is for the embetterment and the enrichment of you. Nobody asked us to do that, but that's our whole entire premise that we've always stood on, and that's what we started this platform for, and that's what we want to do. We're committed to that. Now, the thing is that I understand a lot of times people have commitment issues. And when I say people have commitment issues, sometimes, you know, you always can think half-heartedly that you want to do this, but you don't want to do it. So sometimes, I mean, I'm going to say all the time, if it's something that you do not want to do, then just say you do not want to do that. I take this very seriously when I'm talking about things that I want to do in order to add value to our communities, to building our communities. I take that serious. When you see this live, you're seeing the commitment. So I just want you guys to know that if your word is not what it is, no one is going to take you seriously. No one is going to take you serious at all. Stand in your truth. Stand in your truth, because standing in your truth is everything that you're ever going to need in order to not just build the character that you have, but to build you, that individual. So commitment creates culture. And when I'm talking about building communities, that's culture. That is culture. So again, let me just give you this abstract before I give you my true meaning of what this says. The abstract is, when you're consistently committed in your family, your friendships, your workplace, your community, you don't just build a reputation, you set a standard. The people around you begin to rise to that standard. Commitment is contagious. One person who always shows up, always follows through, always does what they said they would do. That one person can shift the entire culture of a group. Think about the communities that thrive. Think about the organizations that endure. They are built on a culture of commitment where every member understands that their word is a bond, not a suggestion. This overall thing here says that, you know, everybody remember that cliche. One bad apple spoils the bunch. And for me, I don't necessarily see that way. And again, I'm preaching this about commitment because I'm seeing a lot of cracks, and I want to ensure that as we continue to stand on what we do here, is I want you guys to know that we're committed. We're committed to bringing you the best of the best, and that you understand that when you see us doing these shows, these shows are for the culture and the cultural understanding of what real life, real values, what they mean, and how they have affected people, but also how they are improving people. This is kind of hard for a lot of people because a lot of people hate to hear or talk about the word and the term commitment, because commitment, can be very, very deep. But again, as I say, if you can't stand in your truth, and if you can't be committed, that's even in relationships. I'm talking about community, but I'm also saying how this actually goes into relationships. And when people start to court, well, now that you guys don't court today, so I'm not sure exactly what it is, but when you get to understand that person, you've dated this person, or you get to just understand and know this person. When you do that, that in itself is a commitment. Because once you go further and you decide that you're actually going to be dating this person, and today's world's a little bit different, but either you guys are going to be monogamous, how you're going to be open and what that works, whatever that means. You've made that commitment. When you make that commitment, you need to stand 10 toes down on what you say and what you do. Because again, as I said earlier, if you don't stand on your word and you cannot stand in your word and in your truth, then your word is not bond. You're not being truthful. You're not being committed. You have to be committed if you're going to make that commitment. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, you need to do it. If you're not going to do it, then say, hey, I can't do this. But running around and just being untruthful is one of those things that really cause an enormous amount of issues. So, I'll go through to this next point, where recommitment is not weakness, it's maturity. There will be times when you fail to follow through, you miss the mark, you fall short of what you promised. That moment is critical. The question isn't whether you stumbled, it's whether you get up, acknowledge what happened, and recommit, and even more intention than before. Recommitment is an act of integrity. It says, I see where I fell short, I own it, and I'm not done yet. That kind of accountability, especially when you could have just walked away, is one of the most powerful things you can model for the people in your community. I'll say, that is definitely a sign of maturity. And, it takes a strong person to be able to say that they fell short. I think that when it just comes down to an enormous amount of things that transpire or go on in our lives, we all have an enormous amount of things going on in our lives. That's to be expected, and that's also understandable. I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, don't make a commitment to something that you're not committed to. And again, that's person, place, or thing. Because making a commitment is one that takes you to a place that you'll never come back from. Takes you to a place you'll never come back from. So, real life application. I want you to think about one promise you've been carrying but haven't fully honored. It could be to a family member, a friend, your community, or yourself. Don't shame yourself, but don't dismiss it either. Write it down, acknowledge it, make a real, specific, time-bound plan to honor it. Then do it. Not because someone is watching, because you are watching, and the version of yourself, your building, deserves to be built on solid ground. I want you guys to let that set in. But, as I move on to this next part, I want to just give you this one community impact statement. And that is, a community full of committed people is a community that can weather any storm. When the people around you know they can count on you, when your word is as good as a contract, you become a load-bearing wall in the structure of that community. You become someone people build around. That is what legacy looks like at the ground level. This is what community building is. It's commitment. And I want you guys to think about that statement. Now, I want to talk to you guys also about honesty. And this is the courage to tell the truth before it costs you everything. Honesty is more than not lying. It is the courage to be transparent before it becomes necessary to speak the truth, even when silence would be easier, even when the truth is uncomfortable, and even when telling it might cost you something at the short term to save everything in the long term. That in itself, I tell you, I think we were all taught honesty as part of our morals and values as children. And when we talk about honesty, I want to tell you guys about honesty as a preventative medicine. And when it's actually done as a preventative medicine, that means that, you're going to disclose, you're going to be upfront, you're going to let it be known where you stand on situations before you even get too in depth. And so when you do that, it leads to a whole bunch of other things. And those things are the things that, you have to be able, to just talk to people about. And so as a preventive medicine, most of the relationship damage we witness in families, in friendships, and in communities doesn't come from a single massive betrayal. It comes from small dishonest fights that compound over time. A half-truth here, a deflection there, and a mission that seemed harmless. And over time, those small dishonest fights build a wall between people, a wall of resentment, confusion, and distrust that eventually becomes impossible to scale. Honesty, practiced early and consistently, prevents the wall from ever being built. It keeps the air clean, it keeps relationship honest, and it keeps communities healthy. When we talk about honesty in communities, that is definitely true, because when you commit and you are honest about what you're trying to do in a community, you have to put that on the table. I have to make sure that as I take this on, because this is something I decided to do, I know that there are an enormous amount of people out there, especially in our communities, the communities that look like myself. And there are several people that probably do not agree and would not want to build our community. I'm not talking to those people because I do know that they exist. So as they exist and they do the things that they do, those are the very folk that actually prevent that load-bearing wall from being built. Those very same people. But I will say that each and every individual that's out there watching, you do know that when you're talking about being honest, honest is the best thing that you could ever be and do, because what it does is it goes back to you and the character that you have. It says a lot about you, where people can't say that they don't trust you. We're talking about real situations here. And so again, again, some people might not like this, but I will tell you this. When we're talking about building our communities, I want you to know that whatever it takes, I'm there to build, I'm there to connect, and I'm there to expand. I'm reaching out to you because it takes you to be a part of this as well. It's not just about me. This is about us. And I'm hoping that not only as this continues to grow, that you guys are able to have this not just in your relationships, but also in your everyday community building when you reach out to people and how people are accepting to your honesty and your truth. Because this is where we have to build. Just have to say it. Let's talk a little bit about radical honesty, where it requires radical courage. Here's what nobody tells you about honesty. It is one of the bravest things you can practice. Telling someone the truth, especially when it's hard, especially when the truth reflects poorly on you, requires you to prioritize the relationship and the community over your ego and your comfort. That is not a small thing. That is a character act. That is a leadership act. The people who are radically honest are often the people who are radically trusted, because when you know someone will always tell you the truth, even when it hurts, you never have to wonder where they stand. That clarity is a gift. That's where we stand today. We stand today on that very clarity. And I'll just say that for even those that refuse to want to adhere to commitment and truth, that's on you. I'm not passing judgment on you because that's you. You do what you feel. But I'm just asking for those that understand what commitment and honesty means, that you guys practice this in your daily life and you do what's necessary to make your life better. I can't tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. I just want to put this out because I want you to understand one thing about this platform is that we're built for both commitment and honesty. So when you come and you listen to this show, that is exactly what you get. So the impact is real, and I want to make sure that it stays that way, because as these times are changing and the way that they're growing and what's happening today, I think we all need to be informed, and we all need to move and shake as one instead of as separates. So let me tell you guys about how honesty is how we build real community. Surface level communities are built on agreement. Real communities are built on truth. In a real community, you can tell your brother and sister something hard because you love them enough to be honest. In a real community, you can disagree, challenge each other, and still remain committed to the collective vision because the foundation is truth, not performance. When honesty becomes the norm in a community, something remarkable happens. The community becomes capable of real growth because the real growth requires real feedback, and the real feedback requires radical honesty. That is, regardless of the case, where you stand is what people need to know. Stand in your truth, and you do what you do how you see fit. If not being a part of a community and helping a community grow, if you're not there, then that means that's what you say, that you don't want any parts of that. But to try to stand in and be half in and then to come back and try to sabotage that is a problem. That is a real problem, because the effects of that, especially if it succeeds, can be could be a greater harm than anything that you could ever imagine. But you know, again, this is saying that, you know, there are a lot of people that do that. And when they do that, I mean, you can't speak for them. I can't speak for them. I don't know of that and how that works. I'm just saying to you guys that I need us to be honest and I need us to be together and unified as we work in this community building process, because it's one that's going to be that affects each and every last one of us. That's all I want. I want to make sure that I get that out to you, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. And the side that I'm on is about connecting and building communities. Be honest about your limits too. So part of honesty that we often overlook is being honest about what you can and cannot do. Overpromising isn't just a commitment failure, it's an honesty failure. It is choosing to look capable in the moment over actually being reliable in the long run. Being honest enough to say, I can't take that on right now, is not weakness, it's wisdom. It protects your integrity and it protects the people who are counting on you. So when you let that set in, that's what I said earlier in the commitment side. That is being half in, half out. That does not work. If you're not all the way in, then just say you're not all the way in. That makes all the difference in the world. That makes all the difference. If you're if you're trying to be in a relationship, say you want to be in that relationship. If you're not in a relationship, then just say, I'm not ready for a relationship right now. But being that half in, half out, that doesn't work. Does not work. And well, I appreciate this comment that's here in the chat. I really do. I appreciate that. Real life application is, you know, to make a summation, you know, here about honesty. Is there a conversation you've been avoiding, a truth you've been sitting on because it feels too uncomfortable to share? Challenge yourself this week to have that honest conversation with yourself first, then with the person who needs to hear it. Lead with love, be clear, be direct, and be willing to sit in the discomfort. What waits on the other side of that honest moment is almost always something better than what exists in the silence. I want you guys to let that sink in, because that says one thing. That says that in knowing when you're asked or if you're going to do anything, you need to make sure that you're comfortable with the decision you're going to make. If you still feel like you're like half in, half out, then you just need to not even think about that at all. But commitment and honesty is what this is about. So let me give you guys a community impact statement on honesty. Honest communities are resilient communities. When people feel safe to tell the truth, when they trust that honesty will be received with grace and respond to with maturity, they show up fully. They bring their real selves, and real selves working together with a shared vision can accomplish extraordinary things. Honesty is not just a virtue, it is a community building tool. So I think that's one of the things that we all should be thinking about when we're talking about the things that happen here in our community as we build them. Lastly, I want to talk to you guys about trust. And in talking about trust, we're talking about the infrastructure of everything that matters. Trust is not something you earn once and keep forever. Trust is a living thing. It must be maintained, protected, and when it's been broken, painstakingly rebuilt. Trust is the infrastructure upon which every meaningful relationship, every lasting institution, and every thriving community is built. Our communities should be built on trust because our communities are real. Our people are real. And as we work together, we should be able to trust each other. I want to say this first thing here about trust is that trust is built in small moments, not grand gestures. And so the abstract of that is we tend to think of trust in terms of big moments, the crises, the tests, the dramatic choice, but trust is actually built or destroyed in the smallest, most ordinary moments of daily life. Did you show up when you said you would? Did you follow through on the small things nobody was tracking? Did you keep the confidence someone shared with you? It's the cumulative weight of 1,000 small acts of reliability that builds deep, durable trust. Grand gestures are memorable, but it's the daily consistency that makes people feel safe. I say that to you that to say this is that, again, as we go from commitment to honesty to trust, they're all mutually exclusive and they all work hand in hand. If you do not have a commitment and you try, if you're not firm in your commitment and you're half-heartedly about your honesty, what makes you think someone is going to trust you? What makes you think somebody's going to trust you? Nobody's going to trust you because trust does go a long ways. And in today's time, trusting people actually puts you in some really, really awkward situations. Those awkward situations mean that if you cannot hold yourself accountable, if you can't be honest, and if you can't be committed to what you're supposed to be committed to and trust that all these good things work with, then nobody's going to trust you or want to be around you. These are things that we have to work on building in our communities. And hopefully we can start to do that like as of right now because it's really, really needed. Trust is a community. It's a community's most valuable asset. In many communities, a neighborhood, a church, a business, a family, trust is the invisible force that makes everything else possible. It makes collaboration possible. It makes vulnerability possible. It makes growth possible. When trust exists, people invest. They show up. They go the extra mile. They take risk together. When trust is absent, everything costs more. Every interaction requires more energy. Every conversation carries more suspicion. Every decision is second guessed. A community without trust is a community in survival mode, and survival mode is not where transformation happens. That speaks directly to our community today because we're lacking in all of these areas. And for some strange reason, it's like it's hard to build this. It should not be hard to build this because there are scars, there are issues, there are everything that's happened, and there are so many things that are going on. But if you are in a fragile state, that is not something for you to bring someone else into and impose that on them. That's not what that is. We're not supposed to be doing that. That just don't work. That just does not work. We've got to get better. I know that we can get better because I know we are better. And again, I want to re-emphasize the point of where I stand, where this platform stands, is that we're here to actually build connect, and expand. The platform is here. I need you guys to get on board. When trust is broken, how you respond is everything. Trust will be broken, not if, when people are human, mistakes happen. What separates communities that recover from communities that collapse is the response to the breach. The broken trust must be acknowledged. Clearly, without deflection, accountability must be taken, fully without qualification, and then the real work begins. The slow, humble, patient process of rebuilding. Rebuilding trust is not a single apology. It is consistent, demonstrative, and it's a demonstrative action over time. It is showing up again and again and again until you see the change and can feel the sincerity behind it. Again, this is about us working together. This is about what we need to do in our communities in order to make them better. I think that each and every last one of you are here to do some things that really can show up and make everything what it's supposed to be. This place, and for what we're going through in today's times, it requires all of us. And again, let's not play sabotage. Let's just be real. Let's be real honest. And let's make this happen. Because, and talking about rebuilding trust, we can try to rebuild trust. But again, that takes an even longer road. Let's just start out by being honest and committed up front if that's where we're going to be. Or if we're not going to be there, just be honest and committed to not being there. Let that be known. That's your honesty. That's your truth. That says more for the person than anything else. This last point that I want to get out to you guys is be worthy of the trust you've been given. Someone in your life is trusting you right now. Maybe it's a child watching how you handle adversity. Maybe it's a friend who confided in you. Maybe it's a community that elected you, appointed you, or simply looked up to you. The trust was given to you as a gift, and every gift of trust you carries a responsibility. Ask yourself regularly, am I worthy of the trust that's been placed in me? Not as guilt exercised, as a collaboration, as a North Star. Let that question guide the choices you make every single day. That right there is self-explanatory. Be who you are, do what you do, stand in your truth, and be your true, authentic self at all times. Do not be half-heartedly about anything. If you're all in, you're all in. If you're all out, you're all out. If there are things you need to know more of, then ask those questions to help you to make that more informed decision. But straddling the fence is not one of those things that get you anywhere. Actually, it causes more harm than a little. So I want to give you guys these last two applications here. I want you guys to understand something about audit your trustworthiness this week in the relationships that matter most to you, personal, professional, communal, or you showing up as someone who can be trusted without reservation. Where are the gaps? Pick one area where your consistency has slipped. Make a deliberate, visible commitment to close that gap. Trust is not reclaimed in one move, but it is rebuilt one move at a time. And this last impact statement, a community built on trust is a community that with unlimited potential. When trust is the foundation, people dream bigger, they extend grace more freely, they forgive more readily, they invest more deeply. Trust transforms a collection of individuals into a unified force, and a unified, trust-anchored community is a force that cannot be stopped. I want to thank you guys for your time. I appreciate each and every individual that has tuned into the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if there's any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I appreciate you. And I'm going to close with this monologue because I want to make sure that you guys know again that I'm committed and we're committed to you. This is Go Be the Promise. Before I let you go today, I need to say something that I hope lands deep. Your word is not just a communication tool. Your word is not just a social courtesy. Your word, the promises you make, the commitments you keep, the honesty you choose, the trust you build is the most powerful legacy building instrument you will ever have to access to. And here's the part that gets me every time I think about it. You don't need a platform to use it. You don't need followers. You don't need a title or a position or a seat at anybody's table. Every single day in the ordinary spaces of your ordinary life, at home, at work, in your neighborhood, in relationships, you are building something. The question is, what are you building? And are you building trust or eroding it? Are you building a reputation for honesty or for convenience? Are you building a legacy of commitment or a pattern of empty words? I want to challenge you today not to be perfect. None of us are perfect. I'm not standing up here telling you I've never fallen short on my own word. I have, and I'll probably fall short again. But what I know, what I hold on to is this. Every time I choose to honor my commitment, I become more of whom I'm supposed to be. Every time I choose honesty over comfort, I build something that outlasts the moment. Every time I choose to be worthy of the trust placed in me, I'm contributing to a world where trust is possible, and that matters. That matters in your home, that matters in your neighborhood, that matters in your city, your church, your place at work. It matters every circle you inhabit. You have the power to model something for the people watching you, whether you know they're watching you or not. Your children are watching. Your teammates are watching. Your community is watching, not to judge you, but to learn from you, to be shaped by you, to decide whether what you represent is something worth following. So I'm asking you today, make that choice to lead with your word. Honor the commitments you've made. Tell the truth when it would be easier to stay silent. Protect the trust that's been given to you like it's the most precious thing you own, because it is. Because here's the truth about what has been living in my heart throughout this entire conversation. The world doesn't need more people who talk about community. The world needs people who are the community, who show up, who follow through, who remain honest, who stay accountable, who build trust every single day. That is how we change things, not with the grand announcement, not with viral moments, with the quiet, daily, non-negotiable decision to be a person whose word means something. Go be that person. Go be that promise. I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time. This is CKStories from the heart, and this story, your story, is being written. Let's write it right. See you next time. See you next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a great evening.